Now, face the mighty bison.
A very fun pastime of mine, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys, is thinking about which character will fit into Tekken, whether it be a guest character or whether it be a totally new idea. Tekken as a franchise has had so many different characters. Here's a screenshot of which characters was introduced in what game, all the way from Tekken 1 all the way down to Tekken Mobile. We don't have an updated chart that showcases Tekken 8, but there's only 3 characters so far. But across this whole era of Tekken, you can see so many different characters from different regions of the world, different takes on fighting styles. But even with all the work they've done over the past 30 years, there is still a lot that players want and would love to see. As Arslan, Ash, and many of the other Pakistani players started to win tournaments and absolutely dominate Tekken 7, there was this growing demand that a character be given to them as a reward. And I fall on the side of the fence that I do not think that's a good idea. Even though I love what Arslan has done and all of Pakistan like doing incredible things in tournament, pushing this game to a high level in terms of excitement and just everything, right? It's really incredible. But I think it's a Pandora's box where if you start rewarding players who win tournaments with characters, that is a very sticky slope, because the question that I ask is, where does it end? Arslan did some incredible things in Tekken 7, but you have some other guys popping up in Tekken 7 and doing incredible. Joka, Molgold. If these guys continue to win, do they then get a character? That's why I don't really think Pakistan should get one, for the reason that Arslan is winning, so reward him with a character. I just think eventually when you get so many tournaments down the line, so many games down the line, everyone's going to be asking for a character, and once you do that, there is no going back. So I say no for that reason. If there was a better reason, then I may say yes. But Harada has some other tweets in here where he's talking generally about character requests and which countries he wants to focus on. First, let's start here. Someone says, is there any country you haven't chosen to represent a character in your games? Which one would you pick and why? Harada says, there's too many to answer. Before asking that question, you might want to first count the number of countries in the world, since there's far more countries that have not appeared in the game compared to the number of countries in the world. Wouldn't it be faster in this case to talk about the reasons for choosing the countries? We know this world can be driven by war and destruction. And what I've noticed is that Tekken tends to stay away from countries that are heavy in that. Now, of course, you could say Dragunov, he's one of the most popular characters in the game, and look at the Russia-Ukraine war. But at the same time, Dragunov came way before then, and also he's really popular. So I don't think they'll remove characters because of a existing conflict. But if there is a existing conflict, I don't think they would then go to that place and create a character, because when they do create a character, they like to visit, they like to understand the food, the language, the lore, everything, the history. But you can't do that if the country is in complete turmoil. Another question. Someone says, is there a country you want to represent, whether as a character or a stage, in Tekken 8 that hasn't been done yet? He says, from the standpoint that I would change myself to create characters for as many countries as possible, as I have done in the past. However, as with all games, the character is one of the main attractions and selling points of the game. This is very interesting, right? So we always talk about, where does the roster size stop? Tekken 7 had 51 characters, Tag 2 had, I believe, 63 characters, and a lot of people would argue that once you start hitting those numbers, the game become bloated, is the word that you start hearing thrown around. And it's kind of difficult because characters is a main selling point. And when your main selling points start to hurt the game itself, what do you do there? Do you just go ahead and release a new game? Do you keep pumping out characters? It's a very sticky situation that Tekken constantly finds itself in, having such a large roster, but then having to add more and more and more to it as the years progress, and then that in and of itself becoming a problem, but also they make a lot of money from it. So it's just like a huge circle that just keeps on spinning there. He says, in other words, it's not only the creative aspect, but also the marketability of the country or region which the game is to be played. And this is also something Harada talks about a lot, right? Lydia is connected to Poland because Poland is huge in terms of Tekken. He did Shahid because Saudi Arabia wasn't that big in terms of Tekken, and he wanted to bring that player base in. Same thing for Josie in the Philippines. That region loves Tekken, and he wanted to, give them a character for that reason. So they do kind of use characters as kind of like chess pieces in a way. This region doesn't play Tekken, let's give them a character and try to lure them in. This character plays Tekken a lot, well, let's give them a character and make that player base stronger, is what they do. Of course, this is not in all cases, but it is something that is determined by a variety of factors. In this case, marketability means whether or not the title can be sold. It's not related to whether or not the country or region is strong in competitive scene. So you see how we circle back to that? Now here's where Pakistan comes into the fray. Someone basically asked Harada to make a Pakistan character, and this is a few ideas they sent his way. You have the Great Gamma, it's a guy holding this giant like weapon, I don't know what that is. You have another one where it's like this dancing, I don't want to butcher that name, but it looks like some kind of like chrome or bronze doll. And then the other one is the dancing girl of something else, I don't know how to pronounce it, but this is the ideas that a Pakistani player presented to Harada and said, you know, here's some ideas, choose one of these and can you please put it into the game. To that, Harada said a lot, and I mean a lot, but it can basically be summarized into Tekken director and chief producer Harada explained that if fans give him detailed concepts, then they'll avoid it in fear of potential legal issues. Like if he takes this person's ideas and run with it, this person could then turn around and say, hey, you stole my idea, you didn't pay me, you know, I need some compensation, and then sue for that. So that's something that he's always afraid of, and when people send him ideas, he feels like it limits what he's able to do in the future. If he does ever want to make a Pakistani character, these three ideas seemingly is off the table. Looking specifically at his tweet, he says, basically, the more specific and detailed the idea is, the less likely we are to adopt it and the further away we are from being influenced by it. Why? Because a percentage of people will file a lawsuit in the form of you used my proposal without permission, or you stole my proposal, or that was my proposal. Skip it down a little bit, he says, in the case of Shahid, it was unheard of in the industry to release sketches of a character in the concept planning stage before the character was announced on SNS to gather feedback in what needs to be revised or improved in consideration of Middle Eastern culture. And this is something that he did for Shahid. He released a sketch very early and he asked people yes or no. And at the time, people said yes. Skip it down more, he says, for Eliza, the plan was to first publish a list of character ideas that were considered but rejected, and then hold a fan vote to create an actual character that would appear in the game. If you don't know what he's talking about here, he basically had a bunch of scrapped ideas. He took all of those ideas and he let the player base choose which ideas they want to be fleshed out. Out of all of the ideas, I believe there was like 10 or so. There was like an old man, a prey mantis, sexy Tekken 4 soldier, and then there was a sexy vampire, and there was like a zombie bride. There was a lot of ideas on there, but the one that the player base chose at the time was Eliza, and that's the character that they put into Tekken Revolution and also Tekken 7. For Lars was created through the Swedish embassy mailing list, where a wide range of Swedes from the students and company executives living in Japan came up with ideas for the character name. He ends off his tweet by saying, however, as I explained at the beginning, it's basically a risk in this day and age to receive details of a specific idea from fans, and it should be noted that we try to avoid those as much as possible.